Good evening. The Aam Aadmi Party calls it direct democracy, others call it anarchy. One way or the other, Arvind Kejriwal and his ministers have been in the news for what his critics will say are the wrong reasons. The latest example, the way the minister Somnath Bharti tried to take on a group of Ugandan women who were allegedly part of a drug or prostitution racket. Now Arvind Kejriwal has hit out at his detractors. Coming up, Barkha Dutt interviews Arvind Kejriwal and we debate the Aam Aadmi Party strategy in taking on the Delhi police, who they say are corrupt and unable to protect citizens.
एक disturbing controversy, Arvind. Even as a woman, मुझे भी काफी anxiety हुई है. What one hears happened to these women from Uganda. मैं आपसे पूछना चाहती हूँ. सोमनाथ भारती उनके बारे में कहते हैं, ये हम और आप जैसे लोग नहीं हैं. It sounds racist. मैं नहीं कहती रेसिस्ट, आपकी अपनी पार्टी की मलिका साराभाई कहती है कि ये कमेंट उनको सुनकर बहुत बुरा लगा, उनको लगा ये रेसिस्ट है. कैमरा पर हम फुटेज देखते हैं तो ये भी देखने को आता है कि एक पुलिस अफसर ड्यू प्रोसेस की बात कर रहा है. ड्यू प्रोसेस का मतलब वारंट लेके तब रेड होनी चाहिए. जो आपके मंत्री कर रहे हैं, जो सोमनाथ भारती ने किया, वॉज इट नॉट रेसिस्ट, वॉज इट नॉट पॉलिटिकल इंटरफेरेंस, इज इट नॉट अ कंप्लीट वायलेशन ऑफ ड्यू प्रोसेस? ये एक बड़ा मुद्दा है, एक बड़ी कॉन्ट्रोवर्सी है.
आई एग्री. पहली चीज तो मैं ये कहना चाहता हूं कि वी हैव एब्सोल्युटली नथिंग अगेंस्ट रेजिडेंट्स ऑफ एनी कंट्री. वी रेस्पेक्ट द फॉरेनर्स एज आर रेस्पेक्टेड गेस्ट्स, ऑनर्ड गेस्ट्स. लेकिन अगर कहीं पे गलत काम हो रहा था, कौन इन्वॉल्व था, मैं इस पे नहीं जा रहा. मैंने पुलिस को फोन किया. मैं अब आपको बताता हूं, 1.5-2 महीने से इस इलाके के लोग बार बार पुलिस कमिश्नर को, बार बार होम मिनिस्टर शिंदे को, चिट्ठियां उसकी कॉपीज हैं, उनको शिकायत कर रहे थे, जी यहाँ पे ड्रग रैकेट और सेक्स रैकेट चल रहा है. आप कोई
पुलिस कंप्लेंट फाइल की उन्होंने?
बहुत सारी हैं, बहुत सारी हैं. वहां की रेजिडेंट वेलफेयर एसोसिएशन ने की है, वहां पे बहुत सारे लोगों ने की, सब में कॉपीज हैं. कल मैंने शिंदे साहब को भी दी कॉपीज, पुलिस कमिश्नर को भी दी कॉपी. हमने कहा आपने एक्शन क्यों नहीं लिया 1.5 महीने से? क्यों नहीं आपने कुछ किया इसके ऊपर? इसके पास परसों कुछ लोग आए, उस दिन कुछ लोग आए रात को. ही सेड कि मैं पहले खुद देखूंगा, अगर वहां पे कुछ गलत हो रहा है तो मैं पुलिस को बुलाऊंगा वहां पे. इसने खुद कुछ नहीं किया. ही डिड नॉट डू एनीथिंग. ये वहां पे चला, रास्ते में पीसीआर वैन मिली इसको. पीसीआर वैन सड़क के ऊपर पीसीआर वैन वालों को इसने कहा कि अपनी लाइट ऑफ कर लो, सायरन ऑफ कर लो, चलो मेरे साथ. वो वहां पे पहुंचे. जब पीसीआर वैन वालों ने देखा ये तो यहां आया है, तो पीसीआर वाले बिल्कुल पीछे हो गए. देन द साइट दैट ही सॉ, वहां पे खुलेआम ये सब चल रहा था. तो इसने एसएचओ को फोन किया, इसने एसीपी को, टू कट द लॉन्ग स्टोरी शॉर्ट, एसीपी को फोन किया. वो लोग मौके पे आए और उन्होंने कहा कि हमें कानून मत सिखाओ, और वो सारे वहां से चले गए. नॉट अ सिंगल पुलिसमैन वाज देयर फॉर अ फ्यू आवर्स. मंत्री की सिक्योरिटी कौन एश्योर करेगा? वो उन लोगों के बीच में था, कोई सिक्योरिटी नहीं. कुछ लोग वहां पे मौजूद थे. जो ये कहा जा रहा है कि इन्होंने मैन हैंडल किया, इन्होंने किसी को मैन हैंडल नहीं किया.
So you are,
एक मिनट.
So you are defending Somnath Bharti.
I am defending Somnath Bharti.
You are, the party is standing by him. You don't consider him an embarrassment.
I don't consider him an embarrassment. मेरे को आने तो दो प्लीज. इस महिला ने
नहीं, बिकॉज जो महिलाओं के अकाउंट्स आए हैं वो बहुत ज्यादा डिस्टर्बिंग है. उनके जो वकील कहते हैं, वो कहते हैं कि इलीगली जो आम आदमी पार्टी का जो सोमनाथ भारती के साथ लोग थे, इलीगली यूरिन सैंपल्स लिए गए, उनको पीटा गया. वन वुमन से शी वाज फोर्स्ड टू यूरिनेट इन पब्लिक. ये उनके वकील कहते हैं, ये मैं नहीं कह रही.
बिल्कुल गलत.
पर आप कैसे कह सकते हैं कि वो झूठ बोल रहे हैं और सोमनाथ भारती सच बोल रहे हैं?
मैं वहां
ये कैसे साबित होगा?
मैं यही कहने की सोमनाथ भारती की कोई दुश्मनी नहीं थी इनके साथ. सोमनाथ भारती की कोई इनके साथ पर्सनल
But a crowd can go out of control, Arvind.
But there was hardly any crowd. There were 20-30 people. That's it.
पर जो मेडिकल सैंपल्स, जो यूरिन सैंपल्स लिए गए हैं,
वो एम्स में लिए गए हैं. एम्स में लिए गए हैं.
पुलिस कहती है कि हमने नहीं लिए, ये क्राउड ने लिए हैं. Therefore they're illegal.
यूरिन सैंपल्स एम्स में इनको लेके गई थी सुबह सुबह पुलिस. दीज विमेन रिफ्यूज टू गिव ब्लड सैंपल्स. व्हाई डिड दे रिफ्यूज टू गिव ब्लड सैंपल्स? दैट मींस कुछ दाल में काला था. दे गिव यूरिन सैंपल्स इन ऑल इंडिया मेडिकल. वहां पे ऑन द स्पॉट कोई सैंपल्स नहीं लिए गए हैं.
And you can watch that full interview at 10:30 this evening on Arvind Kejriwal, the angry young Neta. Well, Arvind Kejriwal hitting out at his detractors there, but despite what the Delhi Chief Minister says is the method being used by his ministers essentially mad. Now the External Affairs Ministry has slammed the Delhi government for the way it handled the situation with Ugandan nationals.
The Delhi Law Minister's midnight raid on the home of 6 Ugandan women living in the capital, now under sharp attack from the Home Ministry.
This is utterly condemnable and we cannot condone it.
This came amid reports the Home Ministry has decided to set up a judicial inquiry into the incident after the Delhi Chief Minister Arvind Kejriwal met the Home Minister demanding suspension of 4 cops who refused to arrest the women or search their house without a warrant or a complaint being filed. Kejriwal, who has threatened to sit on a dharna outside the Home Ministry on Monday if action is not taken against the cops, is dismissive of the inquiry.
कोई भी इंक्वायरी का बेसिक प्रिंसिपल ये होता है कि जो एक्यूज्ड होता है उसको वहां से उस एरिया से सस्पेंड किया जाता है बिकॉज ही विल नॉट अलाउ ही विल इन्फ्लुएंस द विटनेसेस.
But the Aam Aadmi Party continues to be unapologetic about the raid and has strongly defended the Law Minister Somnath Bharti despite the shocking revelations on how the 6 African women were treated on the pretext of cracking down on a drug and prostitution racket. Illegally detained by a mob that accompanied Mr. Bharti to Delhi's Malviya Nagar, one of the women was also made to urinate in front of them. Eminent lawyer Harish Salve has now said he will represent the women. It was the massive public rallies and promises of direct democracy that brought the Aam Aadmi Party first into the public spotlight. 20 days after they formed the government, they've taken their promise quite literally on the ground. And while the critics have questioned their vigilante ways, the story has played out quite differently on the ground. In New Delhi, Bhairavi Singh for NDTV.
Does the Aam Aadmi Party's policy of direct democracy gel with the law of the land? The decision of the Delhi Law Minister Somnath Bharti to get the police to take immediate action against Ugandan women in the Khirki Gaon area of Delhi has been roundly criticized now by the External Affairs Ministry, which has assured ambassadors of African nations of the government's intention to take action over the incident involving Ugandan nationals. The government has told African ambassadors that the incident was utterly condemnable and cannot be condoned in those words. The single point office of the police commissioner will apparently deal with specific complaints from foreign nationals. Joining us to debate what happened in Khirki Gaon and whether this was a misplaced attempt at cracking down at crime, Harish Salve, the former Solicitor General, representing some of the Ugandan women in this particular case, who've been at the center of these so-called raids or this attempt at justice. Raghav Chadda, member of the Aam Aadmi Party, Ragini Naik, spokesperson of the Delhi Congress, and Pinky Anand, spokesperson of the BJP. Mr. Salve, to you first. Were your clients in any way involved in anything illegal in Delhi?
I want to make it clear they're not my clients. I don't know where this impression gained currency. Somebody asked me, will you take up their case? I said, if necessary, yes.
Okay.
But having said that, the question is not whether those two both of them claim to be young students. The question is, what happened to them yesterday was brazenly a violation of the Indian Penal Code. All the newspapers carry the story. If what they carry is half true, it is a very serious matter. A group of 20-30 people stopped 2 young ladies in a car or 3 young ladies in a car, forced them to wait. One of them wants to go to a toilet. She is prevented from going, which leads to a rather unpleasant incident happening there. Her modesty is outraged. And all this with a minister standing there. And then he is shouting on the police. You know, we have been fighting to get ministers off the back of the police, whether it be to protect their own kin or whether it be to direct the course of investigation hands-on as is being done. The police has to be independent. If the police is not acting, a constitutional office holder of a minister has more than adequate powers to bring the police to book. But going onto the street with a pack of 30-40 people, stopping people on the road and then passing the kind of comments which he is alleged to have made, I submit is completely unacceptable.
But Mr. Salve, in as much as I understand the point that you're making, you haven't answered my initial question. Were any of these Ugandan women, to the best of your knowledge, involved in any crime in India?
Well, they have said that they are not guilty of any crime whatsoever. I do not think there is any FIR lodged against them. If the neighbors feel that there is crime going on, if they have any credible evidence, one of them can walk up to the police station and write a first information report.
Apparently
that
there have
is
been
how
complaints.
You trigger inquiries.
There have been complaints. Arvind Kejriwal has just said this.
If there is an FIR which is not being acted upon, I wish the minister, who is a lawyer, would have next day moved an application in a magistrate's court or got somebody to move an application in a magistrate's court under 156(3) and directed an inquiry under the supervision
that's
of
a fair point. Raghav, why wasn't that the course of action if no action was being taken by the police?
First of all, I would also like to address the point that why was the FIR not registered? It was not registered because there is a dirty, convenient nexus between these certain people who have been thriving on sex rackets and drug peddling,
but what do you
and
mean
the
by
police.
Certain people?
This section of people who were there in that building.
What do you mean section of people?
No, section of people as in the people who have been alleged with this act in this entire incident.
But what about prostitution in other parts of the city?
No, so what I'm saying is in this particular case, we have convincible evidence to believe that drug trafficking and these sexual activities were going on. The car which was stopped had traces of drugs. The dashboard was filled with condoms. A police constable was inserted in the car to very conveniently hide the drugs in his pocket, and he stepped out unchecked.
A car was full of condoms, therefore the assumption is that these women are prostitutes.
No, that's not the assumption. We also sent one person up. We also sent one person up who knocked the very door, asked for a particular the price in order to indulge into a sexual activity, and he got a response.
And on the basis of that, the police can act?
No, but it is not that basis. There have been written complaints filed by the local residents. There have been repeated requests to the police of that very area to please come and act, but none of this was done. We have a letter dated 29th November in which the residents of that area have pointed out that these activities
I am aware of the
conducted.
letters, and I made that point that there have been letters which have been written. The question is whether you're taking the law into your own hand. Ragini, the Aam Aadmi Party would argue that look, nothing was done. They believe in getting things done. Sometimes doing that is not a very kind or a very favorable sort of way of doing things, may sometimes be required. So Somnath Bharti has acted. Why are we discussing the nuances when we should be looking at the larger picture? That's what they say.
Oops.
Vishnu, let me begin today by quoting Samuel Butler, who said, "Justice, while she winks at crimes, stumbles on innocence many times." And it seems as if this is the kind of justice Mr. Somnath Bharti wants to deliver to the people of Delhi and wants to prevail in Delhi. We are here talking about a government, the Chief Minister and a minister who do not believe in any kind of respect or regard for constitutional measures, for legal measures, for due processes, or for the rule of law. Here is a government and its Chief Minister who seem to have indicted the District Court, the High Court and the Supreme Court for indicting its Law Minister. And today we've seen another blatant example where they want to usurp the power of the executive. So I'm unable to understand what kind of governance is this. Isn't it only vigilantism? Isn't it only a gimmickry? Isn't it actually making a mockery of established constitutional systems?
Yeah, okay.
I
so
don't understand how the Aam Aadmi Party and the government that it has formed.
Okay, just Mr. Salve come in, and then Raghav, I'll come to you next, and Pinky. Mr. Salve, briefly.
One little point that I want to make, Vishnu. Just one more point, Vishnu.
Yes.
I think that this particular act is also emblematic of the fact that this party, its supporters and leaders are highly insensitive and have shown complete disregard towards women also. And not very long ago, when there was a gang rape in Delhi, Mr. Arvind Kejriwal said that he is going to look into the matter after a week and meet the Lieutenant Governor. And here there is extreme proactivism in raiding people without a warrant.
All right, Ragini, you made lots of points. Raghav wants to enter. Mr. Salve, just 1 second. I think Raghav should answer some of this.
Very briefly, I would like to categorically state that none of my volunteers, nor the minister, none of them indulged in any activity which can be remotely classified as being indignified towards that ladies or any racist act.
Oh, I see.
The entire event has been
videographed. Ladies to go to the toilet.
There is videography available. One can see the driver of the car, which would act as a resident, can be
I'm
inspected,
sorry, Raghav,
and the local residents who were present in that area all throughout.
This is a quote from one of those women. Those not in uniform were beating us. He hit me near my eye. Ragini, hang on a second. Ragini, wait. Ragini, 1 minute. Ragini, 1 second. Ragini, please. Can I just make a point over here? This is a quote from one of those women. Those not in uniform were beating us, hit me near my eye. The police helped us. We were returning from a party. The taxi was stopped by those accompanying the AAP minister. they would have killed
Number
us.
one, it was not a taxi, it was a privately owned car, and I would like to say this, that it
so
is
this woman is lying, that's what you're saying.
It is their side of the story. The LG has now set up an independent inquiry, and all the facts of the matter would be on the table for everyone to see.
Mr. Salve, go ahead.
I am sorry,
false and a baseless allegation that she is making.
With 40 people without any authority of law stopping a car, and he is the law minister. What more do you need to indict him? Please don't romanticize with throwing the rule of law overboard. We did this in 1974 when Mrs. Gandhi preventively detained smugglers without any proof, and everybody said we have to act. So what followed thereafter was emergency.
The PCR van was very much there.
Please,
in the entire event. The police...
the minister had no business to stop a car with 40 people or be there or direct the police. I'm sorry, that is a violation of the law.
The LG has set up an inquiry, and all the facts of the matter would be on the table.
You don't need an inquiry. If he was there,
are you going to wait for that?
People,
I think the government will take a call. The Delhi government, which has contacted the Home Ministry, will take a call.
This is throwing rule of law to
the government wants to play the police.
A system
the
in our
government
country,
wants to
and we happen
investigate.
to live.
One sec, let
What
me
kind
speak.
of an authoritarian?
We have a system of due process of law. We are living in a civilized country where people cannot take law into their own hands and wish, tomorrow if I feel or anybody else feels that a crime is happening, assuming a crime is happening, which in this case has not even been confirmed, even so, I cannot take the law in my own hands and do whatever I wish to. Otherwise, you would have anarchy. Nothing short of anarchy. You are having a police officer being forced to search without a warrant. You are stopping a vehicle, therefore you are obstructing the vehicle itself and the people. You are forcing the women to urinate in public. You are therefore indecently outraging the modesty of a woman.
But what about the counter argument that the police is essentially corrupt?
No.
The police is being
the
paid off.
I say Vishnu, let us take anybody's argument to say the police is corrupt or not corrupt. That makes no difference to the argument. You have action which can be taken against any police officer if he is found to be corrupt or alleged to be corrupt.
The system is messed up.
So therefore, everybody take the law into your own hands. I don't like you, you are doing something, I make some argument against you, catch hold of you by your neck or by your collar or by your shirt and say, let me drag you into a police station. I'm afraid we don't work in that fashion.
I think
we have to live according to the rules of the game. The rules of the game are set. The rules of the country are set. The rules of the world are set. You have to have a legal procedure.
Raghav, is there an assumption that the Aam Aadmi Party decides the rules?
See, absolutely not. What we are ignoring here is that there is a dirty nexus between these people who are practicing this act and the police. We are ignoring that. The law minister contacted the PCR. He requested the PCR to come forward, switch off the lights, and let's try and investigate, search the area. He requested the police officers to search
to do that.
No,
the officer cannot
the point.
The
police officer
cannot do
the police, ma'am, if a cognizable offence is being going on, and should the police officer wait for a search warrant, or should the police officer
change the law? The law insists that you have a warrant.
What I'm
saying
you
can't do it without that.
Ma'am,
just by your and my saying, it is not going to change system.
Even if search and seizure were not to be conducted, he
that's what you asked. You were forcing the person to go search.
He could have waited. He could have checked on. He could have gathered some evidence. He could have walked up like our volunteer did.
If a person violates a traffic light tomorrow, you're going to stop him there and beat him up because he violated a traffic light and there was a traffic constable standing there.
We are talking about drug
which was not found even. In this case, not even found.
Please, we have incriminating
You've
evidence.
done cavity search. You did cavity search.
Did you find the drugs?
You did on the privacy of a person.
Please wait for the investigation to begin. We have much more incriminating.
There's no question, Raghav, if we are going to have this kind of thing happening, a banana republic, where everything is going to be done at the instance of...
Mr. Salve, let me ask you this. There is a larger issue if we go beyond just this particular crime and the allegations of how foreigners are treated in our city. And let's be very honest about it, there is a difference between which people who are white and people who are black are treated. Is there an underlying tone of racism in the way all of this was done? And is there an underlying tone of racism in the vibe in the mohalla over there in Khirki Gaon?
How can you brush that aside? See, there are all sorts of pressures and pulls in matters like this. That is why the safest course is to follow the course of the law. A minister goes there with TV cameras, stops two ladies, and their faces could have come on TV. I mean, is there no respect for the modesty of women?